So we have so far set up our search path for the Max MSP patch, and we've downloaded Wekinator and opened up the project file for other machines. Now we're just going to go over how to set up the audio routings and turn on the patch itself. Then we're going to just take a look at how to set up the MIDI foot controller and MIDI controller if you are using those devices in your performance. So the first thing you want to do after launching the patch is in the top menu bar, options here, and then we're going to scroll down to audio status. You're going to go ahead and click on that, and once you do so, this window will pop up, and we can see that the patch is not on. When it's on, we'll see this highlighted like so. But for now, we're just going to go through the input device settings. So core audio is usually what you're going to want. If you're on the Windows machines, it might be something else. So just select the equivalent for Windows. For input device, I'm going to be running a Moto M4, so I'm clicking on that. And same for output device. And sampling rate is at 441K. The sampling rate looks okay, and we'll cover that a little bit more later. And if you ever need to change the I/O mappings, so if you have a quick window to do that here, but if you need for some reason to go outside of what's offered in these input outputs, you can open I/O mappings. In here you can sort of see further input and output channels. So for instance, if I had my guitar on, let's see, input channel 3, I could just do that, and then that would be my guitar input channel. And for some reason, if I had my loudspeakers, instead of 1 and 2, I had it going out of the outputs on 3 and 4, I could change it like so. Lastly, if you want to turn on the patch, you can turn it on here, and you will see that now we're running. I prefer to not turn it on in the audio status window, but instead turn it on in the patch UI. And to do that, you just click on this speaker icon, and now the patch is on. So once that's done with the audio status, what you'll want to do is set up the MIDI devices if you're using them. I highly recommend using a MIDI foot controller during the performance, so that way you can freeze the other machine's output and give you a little bit more of expressive control. So I've plugged in my MIDI foot pedal, and I've plugged in a Nano Korg 2 to work as my faders for this patch. And here I'm just going up to foot controllers, and I can see that the Max patch has already found these two devices, which is nice. Sometimes if it's not there, you'll need to click this button with your mouse, and then they'll show up. And for fader controller, obviously that'll be my Nano Korg. I want to just double check the MIDI channels that these are coming in on, the control channels. So I'm going to press the MIDI foot controller right now. There we go. And when I pressed on it, you saw that this toggle lit up and that the number changed to 64. And that's the MIDI control channel that this foot pedal is operating on. And I want to use this MIDI foot controller for the freeze control. So that is right here under box 1. And I will just change that to 64. Now when I step on the MIDI foot controller, we'll see that it controls the freeze parameter. And you can see it sort of reacting on the bottom of the patch here. Right now it's frozen. Once I release the MIDI pedal, it's going to unfreeze, like so. Now for the fader controllers, we follow the same steps. We identify the control channel that each fader is under, and then we input that channel number into the box of the parameter that we want to use. So for instance, I'm going to move one fader on the nano Korg. So we can see that the number box changed to control channel 2, and I want that to control this other machine's volume down here for sound checking. Sometimes that's just easier. So other machine's volume control, I'm going to plug in the number 2. And now, yep, now it controls that. And I'm going to move to another fader. That's channel 3. I want that to control the live guitar volume. Now that works. Finally, the last volume to control is the final volume control, which is on the bottom here, and this is the mix between the guitar and the other machine's volume. So I'm going to move one last fader that's coming in on channel 7. So I'm going to plug into box 2, final volume control 7. And now we can see that that is controlling the final volume control. Finally, what I would recommend for your sample audio rate is just to double check that it's matched with your audio interface. So I'm going to go back up to the audio status here, and we can sort of see this is the sampling rate we're at. And I just want to double check the sampling rate that my interface is currently running at. What you need to do is go to your audio MIDI setup. It'll look like so. And I am currently running at the same sample rate as the max patch, so that's perfect. If for some reason this was at 48K, I can always change the patch. Sometimes audio interfaces, they can be locked in at a certain sampling rate. I just want to make sure that it's the same sampling rate. So say if this was 48K and I can't change it on this audio interface, I would go into the audio status and instead change it here so that it matches.